Now, we're going to get to JP Dellacamera in a minute because you end up watching the Concacaf game rather than the Field of Dreams game. JP will be so proud that you chose that. I'm going to bring him on. JP Dellacamera, we were talking about Field of Dreams game last night, but the fact is Jeff didn't watch most of it. He has his eyes on the Concacaf game. You'll be so proud of him. How you doing?
That's good. That's great. I'm glad he was watching it. A fun game to watch, not so much the result, but the game itself was good. It was very competitive, and I think the Union were kind of hard done by two things that did not go their way. One is the deflected goal, and the other is the penalty kick, and you can argue whether it's a penalty kick or not if you'd like. The fact is the referee did reverse his decision, which was the decision on the field. But even more so than that, I think people are talking more about that than the mistake, unfortunately, that Martinez made that led to the challenge that he made, when he gave the ball away in a bad spot on the field. The one thing, and Jose is a terrific player, so I'm not picking on him, but, that is a mistake. But, the one thing we've always said about these Mexican teams, and especially at Club America, in MLS, you can get away with some of these giveaways. You can give up the first goal like you did against New England and other teams, and you can come back. You do that on the road against a good Mexican team. I don't care whether it's their preseason or they're 3 games in or halfway through or whatever it is, they'll punish you. So when they gave up that first goal, the chances were probably more likely that Club America would get a second goal before the Union would get one. That's how good teams punish you for mistakes.
One of the things that I was surprised at, probably because I don't watch a lot of the Mexican teams play, is the physicality of the game. Do you think the Union was ready for that kind of physicality?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you could tell me, who the fittest teams are in MLS, and you could debate who is the most fit. But I guarantee you that the Union are right up there. They're supremely fit, ready from a health standpoint to compete, and they are used to the physical play. MLS is a very physical league, so they're not surprised at all. They were ready for it. They matched them. I think, when you talk about physical play, one of the things that we've seen with the Mexican clubs and the Mexican national team, they'll do anything to try to get you off your game. So you want to call it gamesmanship, whatever you want to call it, whether it's an extra hit after a whistle, whether it's a little extra nudge here, an extra nudge there, something that looks unintentional but probably was intentional. They do that, and that's to their credit. I mean, the U.S. will do that, and MLS teams will do that as they become more experienced in the international games. But I don't think for a minute that the Union were caught off by any physical play, and I thought they matched them physically toe-to-toe throughout the night.
Do you think the Union's going to go out and hire the Flyers dentist for games?
Wow. I mean, if you had high-definition television, you probably saw even the size of the tooth, right? I mean, that's a hockey hit, right? I mean, not a hockey hit, but a hockey type of an injury. We see that all the time in hockey where, you'll see a tooth come out of a player's mouth in an NHL game. But yeah, that one was tough. I didn't get an update on what happened after. I doubt that that's why he came out of the game. He looked dazed to me, and I don't want to speculate on any of that stuff, but I think he took another hit later. He's a tough player, and the way he played after the tooth came out and his reaction indicated that he was past that. So hopefully he is okay. But that's why they had taken him out. I doubt it was for the tooth. I haven't read any update, though, on it, so I'm not sure.
We talk about how physical the game was. Were you surprised there was no foul there?
Yeah. Well, was there a foul? There was just no card.
No, there was no foul. There was no penalty, no nothing.
Then yes, I would say yes.
Yeah.
It was late at night. When I was watching, and so I was more
past my bedtime
that he was down. Yeah, mine too. I was more concerned that he was down, for as long as he was down, and that I didn't know what the injury was at first. Before I saw the replay and the tooth came out, I didn't know what it was. I knew he got hit in the face, in the mouth. I thought there was blood, but I didn't know about the tooth that came flying up. But you can only imagine how painful that is.
Yeah.
Like on impact one, and then once the tooth is out, I mean, it must be painful.
Everything about that has to be off. Okay, so they lose 2-0. Can they? Obviously, they have the rematch at Subaru Park coming up in September. Can they make up the deficit next month with the roster they have going into that game?
I think that they can. A 3-0 deficit, I'm optimistic, but against a team like Club America, I wouldn't have given the Union that much of a chance. But 2-0, sure they could. Could they beat Club America 3-0? I don't think that's the thought here, but I think you can beat them 2-0 in your place and then set the stage for extra time, right? One thing is that's tricky. Everybody is saying, when they didn't press last night, of course they wouldn't press last night, not at altitude and, not away from home, and knowing that they needed to keep the score down. But at home, I'm hearing some people say, well, they're going to go for it, they're going to high press. I don't know what they're going to do because, first of all, the second leg is not till another month from now, right? So I don't know how they're going to play. But remember, the weight of the road goal. So you can't give Club America a goal, right? So if it ends up 2-2 on aggregate, Club America is going through because of the road goal, right? So you can't get involved in a game like that where you need this, right? You can't give up the road goal because then it just makes the mountain that much higher. And especially if you give up that road goal early in the game, now you're looking at not only 3-0 down aggregate, but a road goal too. So if they open it up, if they high press, it's got to be risk reward, I would think. I mean, you can't just go for it blindly because of the consequences of how important that road goal would be to Club America.
So when I watched that game last night, and when I've been watching the Union lately, there's a player missing, and I'm baffled as to why and what happened to him. Montero was such a big part beforehand. What happened to him?
Great question. He was suspended, first of all, though, for last night. I don't know if you had heard that on the broadcast. I had known he was suspended, so was Matt Real. So they were not eligible to play as of last night, right? They couldn't have played in those games no matter what. Montero's thing is tricky in the sense that I don't have inside information as to what happened. I only know, what I have read. It indicated that there was a family problem, right? That he was separated from his family because of COVID and, them not being in this country. I'm not sure where they are, first of all. But when they said he was in transfer talks, that implies that it's very vague. He's in transfer talks. To me, only means that he's involved in something that could happen, not involved in something that will happen necessarily, right? Because what if those transfer talks fail? Now what do you do, right? So my expectation all along has been we are either going to hear that he was transferred to another club overseas, or my opinion is that whenever the next game is next week, I think he's going to be coming back.
Without him out there, we've seen some of the young kids get time, particularly the last MLS game the team played before Concacaf. They had 3 of their real young prospects out there with Sullivan and Aronson getting his first goal. What's your thought of what you've seen from the young guys coming in and what this roster is going to look like? They continue to make moves and tweaks.
Yeah, I'm impressed with it. And the thing about Jim Curtin, he's always been about this. It's always about the team. It's not one individual. So you could tell me if you want that Montero is their best player, and I'll buy that if you want to sell that to me. But is he irreplaceable? No, I don't think he's irreplaceable at all. I think the team as an organization has shown that sure they can do okay without him, and I'm not minimizing it because I think he's a terrific player. But if he doesn't play, that means Gazdag plays in his normal spot at a number 10. It means that you don't have to sit out somebody else like a Leon Flock, perhaps, because of Montero in there. And it also stops the progress maybe of a Quinn Sullivan, Jack McGlynn, now Paxton Aronson from what we saw the other day. So I think, you try to take something positive out of what was a negative, right? I mean, Montero's a terrific player. Whatever has happened or whatever is going on doesn't negate that. He's a terrific player. And I hope he's back for next Wednesday against NYCFC. If he's not, and he has moved on, I still feel very confident with Gazdag at the 10, Flock being where he is, more minutes for Sullivan, more minutes for McGlynn, more minutes for Aronson. And, they just signed 2 other players. Jesus Bueno is going to be in. Last I heard, he was not in yet. I think there's a visa situation. But Dabo is here, and we might see him as soon as next Wednesday. I didn't see his name last night on the roster. They only dress 18 there. But I was told he was eligible to play if they needed him. And I think, we don't get to watch training anymore because of COVID situations, but I believe Dabo did have a few sessions, with a team before they left. So I think that Dabo gives them another skilled player up top. Bueno gives them more depth in the midfield. And if Montero does, in fact, come back, those are great decisions for Jim Curtin to have to make.
All right, I'm going to take you across the pond, if you don't mind, because while there may be nobody that's irreplaceable here, Messi is irreplaceable. And I am very confused about the whole thing because the number, I heard everything, but I texted you about this. I am baffled that of the stories that Barcelona is somehow close to $1 billion in debt. How do these teams get in these situations and still exist?
I think financial fair play is an oxymoron, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's such a thing as financial fair play because how do some of these teams do it and not get penalized, right? I mean, how is this possible that a team of that stature could be in debt the way that they were, or that some teams have had sanctions because they went, above and beyond the financial fair play? Unless somebody opens up their books publicly, I'm very leery, very suspect of all of this. To me, there's a lot of things that don't smell right, about the Messi situation. I believe in the tears from him. I don't think he really wanted to leave Barcelona. I don't. But how could Barcelona have been bringing him back in there knowing that they really couldn't have signed him unless they were told by La Liga, stay the course, we'll figure this out. We'll get this in some way, somehow we'll get this done. And then something happened. I don't know when the real story will come out, but to me, there's details that are sketchy, that don't make sense to me. How did Messi and his team agree to a contract this quickly when the whole world was told last Friday that he was not going to be going back to Barcelona, and then on Monday we're hearing, he's already signed with Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, a deal like that doesn't get done in 2 days.
I'm just glad you pronounced the team that he's going to there, because I totally would have butchered
Paris
it.
Saint-Germain?
Yeah.
You can say PSG. PSG is what most people call it, but they're the odds-on favorite now to win the Champions League. I'll make the safe prediction that the number 30, I'm told he's going to wear, jersey, will be the largest selling one there is in the world, and that whatever money they're paying him, whether it's 30 million, 40 million, whatever it is, they'll make that in the jersey sales. So there's no issue with that. But, the whole deal doesn't smell right to me. And I'm a Messi fan. Same with Ronaldo. But in the Messi-Ronaldo debate, I've always said Messi's the guy for me. But last year, when they were talking about him wanting to leave, as much as I love the story of a player staying with one team for his entire career, and that's why I was saddened to see Tom Brady leave, the Patriots when he did, and other great names from the past that have left that couldn't finish their career in those cities, right? I thought the only way Barcelona can save themselves is to sell Messi, because he said he wanted to go, and if they waited until this year, he would have been available for free. Whereas if they had sold him for whatever that price was last year, just throw out a figure, whatever it was, 200 million. I don't remember what it was, but whatever that figure was, that would have not only taken them out of debt, but probably would have taken them from red to black, and they could have replaced Messi with 5 or 6 younger players. Granted, it wouldn't have gone over well, but is it going over well now? I don't think it's going over well in Barcelona.
Well, yeah, and it's not just Barcelona. From everything I've read, the entire league will suffer as a result of this one player leaving. Has there ever been any player that has impacted an entire league and set of nations in the sports world the way that what just happened with Messi has?
I'm going to say no, because when I think about all of the great teams that we've had in sports, it's never been about one guy, right? When Tom Brady decides, enough is enough at age 50 or whatever age, he'll play to, the NFL is not going away. They'll be more popular, right? Because by then, everyone will be talking about, the kid that's playing in Jacksonville, right? Or somewhere else, right?
Tom Brady's kid.
Yeah.
or the fourth generation of Mannings.
Or Mahomes. Yeah. I mean, they'll be talking about something else, right? But, at one point, it was Messi and Ronaldo. And even though those two teams only played X amount of times per year, man, that was great for the ratings, right? When you had one of those derby games, those Clasico games, when Barcelona took on Real Madrid, right? And then they met sometimes in other competitions. It was must-see television for sure, right? So, I'm sure ESPN's not happy. They just get the rights for that, and they lose, the top guy. Draw. Right? So, yeah. I mean, you lose the big player. La Liga is still a fantastic league, and I think, hey, if I'm a La Liga fan, I want to tune into Barcelona because I want to see what's the fan reaction, and I want to see how do they play without Messi. What if they become a better team? What if they spread the ball around better? What if they rely on 5 guys to lead them instead of 1 guy? Right? I mean, it could turn out to be a decent story. And if Messi leads Paris Saint-Germain to the UEFA Champions League title, it'll be a great story in France. Their TV numbers are going to go up. I don't know what their television deal is, but I can guarantee you somebody's already thinking about how many ways and when and how and where they can get more Messi games on TV.
So just so you know, I just checked, and within 30 minutes, Messi's jersey sold out in the online store. 832,000 copies sold.
Yep, that'll help.
So here's another question for you: how did they get that many jerseys printed that quickly?
That's a good question.
Well, and that goes to your.
There's more to this story, guys.
That definitely.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there's too many things here that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. The speed of which this is going, and you could argue if you want that last year, Paris Saint-Germain wanted to get him, and so it was easier to make the deal. Whatever you want to say is fine, but I mean, do we know that he was going to take the number 30? I assume that number is already in the back of the jersey, otherwise people wouldn't be buying it. And also, I read that Neymar is number 10, and Neymar offered it to Messi, and Messi said no.
Yep.
Yeah, didn't take it. Before we let you go, I got to ask you, the women and the men real fast. The women,
sure.
Are we seeing a changing of the guard after the bronze in the Olympics? And then the men, are we seeing with their Gold Cup performance being ranked in the top 10 with a roster that probably isn't their main roster, a team that can, play in with the World Cup this year?
Yeah. U.S. men are on the rise. This is the best group of young players and the most talented young players that we have ever had. I haven't been around forever, but going back to the 90s, I would say. The only class of players that I could think is close to this was in 2002, Donovan Beasley and some others, but not even in the same neighborhood as this team right now when you think of how many players are playing regularly, quality minutes with big-time clubs. Dest at Barcelona. You've got Gio Reyna. At Dortmund, you've got, off the top of my head, Pulisic playing at Chelsea. Tyler Adams is getting regular minutes. A lot of guys are getting a lot of quality playing time on these big clubs, right?
And making an impact with that time.
Yeah, and that didn't happen before. So U.S. national team is in a great place, and you've got players like Reyna. I said this on an interview the other day, that he's young enough. He's got at least 3 World Cups in him, right? If he's only, whatever he is, 18, 3 World Cups covers like 12 years. He's fine, and it's the same with a lot of these other players, right? And now we've got, depth at certain positions, and I think, the Gold Cup may have helped us a little bit more in terms of, who's next or where is there more depth. I mean, Matt Turner's making a name for himself that I'm not sure how many people would have said before that Gold Cup started that you would be hearing debate about whether or not, he could play in World Cup qualifying. There was no debate before it. There's certainly debate now based on what I'm hearing.
And with the women, did we see sort of the end of an era with this team that's done so much for women in sports, not just in soccer, with the bronze?
Yeah. I want to be careful with this answer because I think people were disappointed, by the result because we're spoiled by their success. They won a bronze medal, at an Olympics during a COVID year, right? I know all these teams had to deal with it, but here's what I think about the U.S. team. Whether they won the gold or not, yes, this was going to be an end of an era. Just look at the ages. We were saying that at the end of the 2019 Women's World Cup when I think the stat was 12 players over 30, and a few of them were closer to mid-30s, closer to 40, than closer to 30. So you knew a change was coming right at some point, but when I started to read what some people were writing, the team was too old. They weren't too old. When you think of age in a tournament, I mean, average age was about 30 at the last World Cup. They were one of the oldest teams, and they won it. And that was only 2 years ago. But when I think of age affecting a team, regardless of the league, regardless of the tournament, you see the age towards the end, right? Like in the NHL, if you're an old player, those first 3 months, you're fine, right? But now you get to the playoffs or game 70, and now if you're an old team, now you can see it, right? At a World Cup, you're not going to see it in game 1 if a team is old. You shouldn't see it, right? And the U.S. was bad in game 1 against Sweden. To me, that's not an excuse that they were too old, and they got a break from the Olympic Committee when they said the reserve players now can count. So instead of having an 18-player roster, now you had the 22, right? So I think there are a lot of factors in this. Part of it, I think, was COVID-related. They couldn't train like they normally did. Not an excuse because other countries are in the same boat, right? But U.S. had a lack of meaningful games because of COVID. They had to play Mexico twice because they couldn't get any other opponent. So I think their preparation was not as good as it had been in the past. No fans in the stadium. I think it affects the U.S. team more than others because I think they play off that energy and that crowd, the isolation. They didn't have family members. Nobody's talking about the Julie Ertz injury because she played, but was that the Julie Ertz that can dominate? I don't think so. She was not at 100%. And when you talk about age, 2 of the players that did not have a good tournament are 2 of the best players that they have, 2 of the most dependable players they have, and both are under the age of 30, and that was Sam Ewis and Abby Dahlkemper. So it was a strange tournament. Tierna Davidson, I thought, did well for herself. She started 4 games. I doubt that was part of the plan going in. So I give them props for getting to a point where that bronze medal meant something to them, and they wanted to go off on a high note. And I'm not saying it was the last game for Carly Lloyd. If it was, she scores twice. I'm not saying it was the last game for Megan Rapinoe. If it was, she scores twice. This game meant something to them. They didn't roll over and think, well, it's gold or nothing. So I give them credit for that. Yeah, there's going to be changes for sure. They are going to get younger, but that was going to happen even if they won the gold medal because, time is ticking right on the clock. And it's been a great, great run. They've won 2 straight World Cups. They get a bronze medal that ended, last week?
Yeah.
Losing track of time here. But they also got a bronze medal. I mean, this has been a fabulous run for this team. And now let's see what some of the younger players can do and see what decisions our individual players make on their own and what decisions that the coach, Zlatko Andonovski, has to make, to tell somebody, if he wants to, that this is it, it's time to move on, we're going to change this, because there's a lot of pressure on that seat. You're expected to win, and he knows that.
Well, we always appreciate that we can turn to you for all the soccer news that we need. Look forward to your next call, the Union game, and appreciate the time, JP. You have a great afternoon.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.